as we build machine learning systems, we want to make sure they're more inclusive and secure. And what responsible AI there means is essentially ensuring that there is reliability in systems that we build.
The responsible and ethical, I would like to rephrase that as responsible and ethical use of AI rather than AI itself being responsible or ethical. I think it's an important, especially when you're talking with more mainstream people who are interested or who are being impacted, as the framing is pretty important. So it starts and ends with the people and with people with human agency, as well as accountability within that framework.
So I think it's the velocity today with so many models being built and deployed rapidly and at scale. It requires people to think it through much more so than in the old days when we had many fewer models and they were much more involved in terms of a manual effort to make those results get deployed.
Responsible AI is really about ensuring that the behavior of a given AI system is consistent with a set of requirements. And again, my colleagues have mentioned some of them: fairness, privacy, and so forth.
How do we expect this to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years? I expect that 10 years down the road, when we look back, we'll notice that, even though right now the tools to address this fear are relatively new. I imagine it's very different from the people who are attending this summit, right? Because they care a lot about the topic. So they're not representative of the industry, right? So one, the tools are very new, and then two, they're not widely adopted. But I think in 10 years, we'll have seen those tools mature and be widely adopted, and the folks that don't are doing so at serious risk.
I'm concerned about discrimination. I'm looking at how the composition of my training sets impacts the recommendation of my system and so forth. I'm actively looking for how things can go wrong or what are the biases in my system. To interpret this, this concern for discrimination, maybe using like the EU non-discrimination law, sorry. Once I have this interpretation, I try to operationalize this. I'm calling a lot for internal audits, risk assessment frameworks, whatever process you want to go for, and then you need some kind of reporting.
Again, a step back, there is the business ethics side of it, and you cannot look at this only as a product with the specificity of the product, but you have to look at your organizational culture and principles and your incentive mechanisms and even your hiring practices. Like, who are you bringing into your organization? Who are you hiring? What kind of values and principles you're hiring those people? How do you incentivize your team? Like, is the incentive to hit the market as soon as possible, as quick as possible? Is the incentive to get users to be addicted to your product? So how do you provide that incentive internally and externally?
At the same time, organizationally, I feel, why do we talk about this responsibility, right? Responsibility is because it's not only limited to machine learning researchers who are doing the research or developers who are developing algorithms and building systems. It also matters to indirect users who have impact of the products that they are using, because ultimately they are really exposed to that treatment exhibited by the product, right?
You and I know there's not a team in the world that can build software without bugs. And because of those bugs, people will inevitably try to exploit them, right? And if you think about that sentence, you unpack it in 2 dimensions. One of them is the system behavior, right? Like, does it have bugs? And then the second one is how people are using it, and I think that's really the ways in which the way we look at the problem has to expand. We got to look at system behavior and misbehavior, and that's, for example, where explainable AI fits right in. But then we also got to look at sometimes the system works perfectly fine and the user hijacks it in some way.